Hi everyone, this is Heather. Thank you so much for joining me. Today I've got a card tutorial for you and we're going to make this really pretty Valentine's card. And today I'm going to be using from the new Stampin Up Occasions catalog, the Meant to Be stamp set. It's got some really great hearts. This one has stripes, all over flowers, some little flowers in the corner, a couple smaller hearts, a little bit of filigree, kind of an edge with flowers, and some really great sentiments. So we're going to be using this heart and the Meant to Be words. I'm also going to be using the Be Mine stitched framelits dies. So I'm going to be using the heart-shaped die that fits the stamp that we're using, and then the one that's the next size up, as well as the border die. Then I'm also going to be using one of the rectangles from the rectangle stitched framelits dies. So for my cardstock base, I'm going to be using Lovely Lipstick. I've just taken an 8.5 by 11 sheet of cardstock and cut, scored, and folded it in half. Then I also have some of the really pretty pattern paper from the All My Love pattern paper pack. And it's got these pretty flowers on the back. We're going to be using the all over pattern. I really like kind of the craft background with the white outline and the colorful flowers. And that has been cut to 5 1/4 by 4. You're going to need a sheet of white cardstock, and this is 5.5 by 2.5. Some crumb cake cardstock, just enough for the stamp and the Meant to Be words die. Another piece of the Lovely Lipstick, and it just needs to be the size of the larger die. And then also a thin piece of Flirty Flamingo that's 5.5 by 1. Then I'm also using some pretty ribbon. This is the Lovely Lipstick, and it's from the All My Love set, and it's got the nice white stitching on the edge. And then also just some gold twine. I had this left over from a paper pumpkin kit. So first off, using some Versamark clear ink, I'm going to be stamping out the words in the heart. And this ink is clear, so it might be a little bit difficult to see, but I'm just going to stamp the Meant to Be words on one of the cardstock. And then I have some detailed white embossing powder, and I'm going to pour that over my words and tap off the excess into an embossing tray. And then I'm also going to stamp my heart on the other piece, and I want to check and make sure that I have a nice image on there because that's pretty detailed. And I'm going to pour my embossing powder over the top and tap off the excess. And now I'm going to use my heat tool and I'm going to melt my embossing powder. So I've heated my embossing powder, and I think that really nicely kind of echoes the look of the pattern paper with that nice bright white. So on the heart, I wanted to add a little bit of color. I'm going to be using some Prismacolor pencils, and I'm using a blush pink, a rose pink, and spring green. So I'm not going to add too much color, but I'm just going to pick out a few of the roses and flowers that are in here to add some color. So you want to make sure, because this is so detailed, that your pencil is nice and sharp so you can get in between all those little embossed areas and actually have the color stick to the cardstock underneath. I hope you can see that. It adds a very subtle color. And so I'm just going to pick a few of the flowers, and you can go over the embossing and it will kind of resist the pencil. You can kind of rub your finger over, but the white embossing really will not pick up that color. So you just want to get as much of that down on the cardstock as you can. So just want to randomly pick different flowers in the pale and then go in with the darker pink. So if you can see that color picked up there. And then in just a few of the places where there's some green leaves, I'm just going to go in, same thing, and just try and add a little bit of green in those tiny little spaces. It doesn't take much. Like I said, it's very detailed, but it just gives you a little bit of color. So here's my finished piece with the color added. And now with some repositionable tape, I'm going to tape in place the heart that fits the stamp. I'm also going to line up the stitched rectangle, and then on my other piece, lay down the heart. I'm going to tape everything in place so they don't slip, and then I'm going to run them through my die cut machine. So now that I have all of these pieces die cut, I'm going to move on to my white piece, and I'm going to take the border die, and I'm kind of using my mat. You could kind of use you could use a ruler as well, and I'm kind of lining up the scallops, and I'm using the edge of my, or the line on my mat. I'm going to tape that into place, and now I'm going to run that through my die cut machine. So I forgot to mention, you want to make sure that the scallop part of the die is facing the edge of your cardstock. So now I want to do the other edge. I'm going to take my ruler and a pencil, and about 1.5 inches down, I'm just going to make a little tick mark there on my cardstock. I'm going to turn my die so that it's facing the other direction and line that up on that tick mark. Again, I'm going to use my mat here to kind of get it as straight as I can and tape the other edge down as well. So now that I feel like that's pretty straight, I'm going to run this through the die cut machine. So now that the white piece has been die cut, I'm going to take some tape runner and run that down my long pink strip. I'm going to center that on my white piece that I've die cut. And now I'm going to take my piece of ribbon, and I'm going to center that in between. I'm going to turn it over. I'm going to pull over just some regular Scotch tape, and I'm just going to tape those tails down on the back. So here's our border. And I wanted to add a little bit more extra of a stitched look to kind of go with the ribbon and everything on the heart so that it's not quite just solid red. So I'm going to take a Unisigna ball and just make little dash lines around the heart, about 1/8 of an inch from the edge, and just go all the way around and add that little faux stitching mark. So next I want to go ahead and apply my pattern paper to my cardstock base. I'm just going to add some tape runner and center that on the front. And next I'm going to add tape runner to the back of the border piece. I'm going to add quite a bit because there's tape and ribbon and everything on there. And then I want to center that on the front of my card. So there's that. And now I've applied some foam tape to the back of both of the hearts and the words. In the lower right hand corner, I'm going to put the words. And then on the red heart, I'm going to apply the one that I've embossed on top of that with foam tape. So next I'm going to take my gold twine, and I've got about 24 inches of it, and I'm just going to loosely wrap it around my hand until I have some loops, and then I'm going to gather those together in the center and take just a regular piece of Scotch tape. I'm going to place the loops down on my card and take just a regular piece of Scotch tape and kind of tape those in place. If any of them get loose or you need to trim it off like mine did, you can do that. Just kind of spread them out. And then I take the heart with the foam tape on it and tape that in place, and then you just kind of pull your loops out a little bit, and that just adds that nice pretty gold touch. So here's our finished card. I think it's very kind of a romantic and sweet card. I love the stitching and the bright pinks on the craft color. I think it's a really pretty card, and I love this set, especially the die cut. The heart die cuts are really fun. There's a lot that you can do with them. So I hope that you enjoyed this card tutorial. Please check out my channel. I have lots of other card tutorials and product reviews for you, and I hope you have a very wonderful Valentine's Day. This is Heather. Bye.